I'll just have to wait and make sure it comes up on Facebook here. Oh, there it is. Sometimes it takes a little while. Welcome, everyone. I hope you are all well today. I'm Lauren, and I want to really create some sacred space for you today so that you can be enriched by the wisdoms that we'll be sharing today. So my name is Lauren. If you're new to me, I am a certified spiritual director, which is essentially a contemplative soul care companion. And I work with the medicine of the rose to help awaken the inner feminine so we can unfold our capacity for grief tending, which is necessary for soul remembrance. And in turn, we reclaim our sacred and inspired soul-aligned lives. And I want to share a little bit about Ground Your Light and the intention. This is really an inclusive container that welcomes the spectrum of spiritual beliefs and practices so we can make informed and soul-aligned choices for our evolutionary spiritual journey. And I offer Ground Your Light in this private community page to serve as a refuge for spiritual seekers, which may not otherwise feel free to explore pathways and wisdoms outside of their current stream of spirituality. So I am really honored to be with Catherine Levi, who is the founder of the School of Enlightenment. It's an online mystery school that empowers spiritual teachers, healers, and leaders of the new earth to live out their divine missions on earth at this time. She is also an Essene and lives in the Galilee Mountains in Israel. And before I have Catherine introduce herself in her own words, I was thinking earlier, like, how did we exactly connect? And I remembered that I found a post of yours in the Light Temple Collective and saw that, I don't know, you might have mentioned Essenes, and so of course that piqued my interest because I've been connected to the Essene lineage for, I don't know, quite a while. And so then that landed me in your mystery school online, your Facebook group. And so we have a lot of things in common, everywhere from bodywork to Reiki to the Essenes. And I'm really excited that you're going to be sharing some practices through tantric yoga for womb health. And so, Catherine, welcome. I'm very excited that you received the invitation to join us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Divine blessings to you and your audience and anybody who finds this transmission today. Honor to be here to share this healing medicine with you all.
So, Catherine, tell us a little bit about your work, because I know you have some offerings coming up, and we're going to be kind of exploring that theme a little bit today.
Sure. So the School of Enlightenment was founded to share on all different topics to enlightenment. There's so many areas that I'm passionate about, that I'm knowledgeable about. things from Kabbalah to the Essene mysteries to Tantra to yoga to healing, all kinds of different modalities, scrolls, prophecies. Also very passionate about vegetarianism. But when I was, connecting with spirit and bringing through the offers that essentially I'm going to be taking, my clients on a journey with, they all were centered around the goddess. And I think that's really relevant. In the last 2 years, we've had an absolute explosion of divine feminine consciousness, especially Mary Magdalene. And it's just spreading, and this concept, this idea of the feminine power and rising into our feminine power is really where I feel it's at, as far as like what's needed on this earth right now for the women to step into their leadership roles. And so yeah, I have a coaching program called the Enlightened Goddess Within, which is based on what I've created as being the 8 steps of enlightenment. We have the Buddhist 8 steps of enlightenment. We have the yoga, 8 steps of the yoga sutras to attain enlightenment. And the 8 steps that I've really grounded and brought through are very much relevant to today. 2,000 years ago, what we have available to us today didn't exist then. And so we're in a much faster paced. We have access to far more information and tools than we did back then, different levels of consciousness. And so that really informs all of the work I do. And then the 2 programs or trainings that I'm launching right now, one is called The Way of the Tantric Priestess, which is a 3-month journey to help women who are either stuck in their masculine energy, who are perhaps finding it hard to commit and devote themselves to their spiritual practices, be it meditation, prayer, singing, dance, movement. To me, they're all necessary and needed, especially on the priestess path. Also for women who have, found that they've got blocks or issues with the womb, the second chakra, the sacral energy, the yoni, sexual abuse, any of those, kind of, I guess, problems that women have found. The programs that I'm offering are really medicine for that, to help the women to come into their feminine power, to attract in divine relationships, divine sacred union, both within themselves firstly, and then of course either in their relationship or attracting in a divine partner, and just really, healing themselves from those past, traumas that we faced at the hands of men, but in a really beautiful container that teaches us to return to the temple, to return to ourselves, and to live a really sacred life, the path of the priestess, which is another thing that's just exploding around the world. And it's so beautiful. It's so wonderful. So many of us lived lives as priestesses in the past, and we're remembering. And I was just listening the other day that something Osho said. He said that there's coming a time where Tantra is just going to explode on the world. And it's a little bit like the divine feminine. It's just something that is going to be as common as yoga is today. We're going to see that with the world of Tantra, because it encompasses yoga and it encompasses so much more. It encompasses this consciousness of God, goddess, right? The mother and the father. And so it's just such an honor to be able to create, and I've been working as a tantric practitioner for 10 years. It's been something that I've been doing for so long, and to be able to package it in a way with my School of Enlightenment and the 8 steps of enlightenment, the feminine arts and the tantric path and the healing of the womb and attracting in your divine partner and just becoming really magnetic to everything you want. This is what's going into those programs. So the Way of the Tantric Priestess, and then in addition to that, there's the weekly Tantra Womb yoga healing and goddess breathwork, which is a 2-hour session to just come, get on the mat and just heal. And, I found with group healing, often group healing, often it's more effective, and you would understand this, it's more effective to go and get yourself healed one-on-one, right? Group healing's great, but to really do that deep work, it should be one-on-one. I found kind of the exception to that is breath work. And I mean, rebirthing, conscious, connected breath work, that really deep, profound breath work where you get taken to higher states of consciousness. And that work, obviously a one-on-one would be great, but that work can be easily just as powerful in a group work. So I'm wanting to offer that container. And, as the Essenes teach, you know, the word is of God and the breath is of the goddess. And so the breath is absolutely our number one way to connect back to the feminine, and working with a more intense breathing practice like the ones that we find in rebirthing or conscious connected breath work is just so incredibly powerful to heal and align. And so, and these offerings are really reasonably priced. They're something that I'm going to be doing. They're going to be spirals, and they're just going to be available for all the priestesses to come in. And once I feel like I've reached everyone that I need to, I'll be shutting those programs down, and then moving on to the next one. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so I wanted to just kind of circle back to the comment you made about Tantra and why that might be a really it's like a bold statement, but also it makes a lot of sense in my own mind and understanding is that you're weaving the energies of the masculine and feminine and returning to that sacred union. And so that's really kind of the ultimate goal. And so it's about the healing work that we're doing for the feminine energies and the masculine energies so that they can come into this divine union and bring us back into wholeness where where there's this quality of unity. Like that's such a common word, unity consciousness. And so I think that the practices of Tantra really weave those energies together, unlike maybe most practices. So I can
Mm-hmm.
see how that would be a very important piece to the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really exciting and beautiful, and there's just so much to learn. There's so many systems and paths. They did that. You had tantric priestesses in ancient Egypt. You had tantric priestesses in Greece. You had tantric priestesses in India. Tantric priestesses in the Essene tradition as well. Mary Magdalene teaches about that. Those teachings are just now being released to the public sphere, and they're just fascinating. And they essentially depict that everything is tantra, that all of creation, what they call universal tantra, was created through divine sexual creative union of God goddess. And through that, that trinity, you have the 0 point, the source that is neither masculine or feminine, and then you have the feminine and the masculine, the trinity. It's tantric in its nature, and its purpose is to expand in life, expand in bliss. And this is tantra. This is expanding, using different practices to expand your consciousness, using different practices to expand your bliss. Whether those practices be sexual, the Indian systems of tantra speak more about an entire philosophy, some of which is sexual in nature, whereas a lot of it is just using the body to experience expansion, consciousness, bliss. But then when you go to the Essene traditions, it's kind of the reverse. So they have their huge system of yoga that encompasses like everything, all their entire wellness practices and what way of life. And then the Tantra is the smaller part that speaks specifically to the second chakra. So it's just so interesting to look at all the traditions. And I try to take from what works and that really resonates with me and what my experience have been, and again modernizing it, bringing it into a way that is relevant to today's priestess and to today's man and woman and couples and things like that. So it's fascinating. Mary Magdalene says, pick up a rock and there you will see that the divine tantric union. It's in everything. Everything has feminine and masculine principles, and they all circulate around the still center point. If you look at an atom with the negative and positive, what is it, protons and electrons,
Mhm.
that's tantra. That is tantra. That's it. It's the building blocks of all
Creation.
of
Yeah.
creation. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah. So, you mentioned that this container that you're holding for the Tantra priestess comes out of, and I'm sure you've probably maybe just witnessed this in your work with women, that there it tends to be a strong lean for women who have just, I mean, it's just because we live in a world that's very like over masculated that we've learned to operate in this way. And I have also, in my own work with women, found that they recognize this tendency to operate out of the masculine. And so like I was just thinking maybe we could talk about like what that looks like, and so people can maybe recognize that in their own lives. And one of the things I hear the word over and over again oftentimes is productivity. Is that our value is based, or our worth is based on how much we produce. And the external acknowledgments that we might gain from working really hard to do to do all the things. And then sometimes I think that also comes out of a sense of needing to please, and so that could maybe goes back to like a childhood wound, maybe not being seen from our parents, or not being able to meet their expectations. And so it's a way that we feel like we can be validated, is through productivity. I don't know, what are the other things that that the masculine shows up in a way that kind of causes this imbalance?
Yeah, so common, and very much part of my journey. So, a saying I often say is like, sometimes the most productive thing you can do is nothing. And it's really about, so it's about limiting beliefs that and that cause our true priorities to be skewed, right? So, um, yeah, society teaches us that you're not valuable, or you're not, yeah, you're not valuable unless you're doing things. And so for me, it was a big, I remember it was during COVID. I was living in the forest, in my family's home out there, and I was really pushing to get my then business going. And I was in such a beautiful environment, in a beautiful place, and then it was just overwhelming and stressful. Like that overwhelm, that stress, that pushing, that hustling, that's masculine. Okay, when you feel that, when your desires become hard and like I have to do it, this is absolutely out of balance. You are in the masculine, you're actually pushing away what you want. And for me, the big like revelation was, oh, my feminine practices, my meditation, my yoga, my walking, my baths, my singing, my dancing, my feminine practices are just as valuable, if not more, than my masculine. And so from that moment on, I started putting on my to-do, because I'm a to-do list
Mm-hmm.
person. I have a very strong, robust masculine like drive, leader, teacher, but I also have a very deeply powerful feminine. And so I work a lot from lists, and I absolutely advocate them. And I started putting all my feminine practices on my list. So my yoga, my meditation, my walk, my bath, my singing, my dancing, my journaling, like it all went on my list. And I started to realize that as I started to really make the shift, and I was already doing those things, but it wasn't quite holding the true value and priority that it needed. And then I find that once I really started to balancing those, that yeah, my whole life really like shifted, and things came came quicker to me, and it just felt better and all of that kind of stuff. And that was it. I just understood that the feminine practices are more valuable, because especially if you're working and living in a spirit, if your job is spiritual, if you're a healer, or somehow related to something spiritual, and this goes for everything, not just spiritual, but specifically for healers, like we are creating our life from the inside out. And so now my life is so built on feminine practice, meaning all those internal practices I've listed. My life is absolutely built on a foundation of them and create on them. And the moment I miss one of my feminine practices, everything else in my external world, which is the masculine expression, goes off kilter and starts to. And so it's just really about like prioritizing your inner work. It is an inside job. And now more than ever, as we go into this enlightened, higher frequency state, like you're not going to be able to manage without it. It is just going to become too overwhelming. It's like it's just where we're at, and it's not that the feminine. Well, in fact, when I was studying yoga in India, and we had a philosophy teacher that would teach us about the chakras. And he told us that the feminine chakras are actually placed a little higher in the body. So the feminine energy, sorry, the chakras within the woman are actually placed a little bit higher. So the feminine energy actually is a little bit higher. And the Essenes teach that that with heart and mind, love and wisdom, mercy and justice, in those masculine and feminine counterparts, love is always slightly higher. So we know that the feminine is actually supposed to be a little bit higher. In the same way that we say, follow your heart. If you let your mind lead your heart, you're screwed. You're gonna go into especially if your mind is full of programs and patterns and stuff. But when you let your heart lead your mind, this is power. This is actually our natural state. So it's actually like, from what we know about feminine and masculine energy, from the scrolls, from the tradition, feminine actually has a slight edge, meaning it should be given a slight edge in our life.
Mm.
It's
I
a
was
very
actually just pulling up a book because this is like, it's interesting. And I don't know if it's like saying the exact same thing, but in the Taoist tradition,
mm,
there's also this understanding of how actually like the feminine energy moves like, and this is biological, female versus male, but the feminine energy moves from outside in. So like we're always absorbing all the energies and bringing them in. And so it's really important for women to have this process of purification and integration. And part of our bleed is that, we take the emotional residue and it leaves our body. And so there's all these practices, like you're saying, the breath work, the meditation, that time is so valuable to us, especially in transition when we move, when our bleed ends. Like this becomes even more important. And that's where like the wise woman comes from, because they have, that's like the beauty of how the life unfolds at that age, is that we're supposed to go into that internal space and receive all the wisdom, but it's also how we regulate our body without the bleed. But it says too that the centripetal movement also becomes the female practitioner's biggest asset, because the inward movement of her energy makes spiritual elevation a more natural and fluid development process for her than it does for her male counterparts. So it makes sense that if we lean towards these feminine energies, it actually helps to elevate our spiritual evolution. I thought that was interesting you mentioned that, because I've been studying this and reading it for a while, and I haven't quite shared it with my community yet, but it's helpful to understand these inner workings, because they are a reflection of our external state of being. And
mm,
so I did want to ask about this, because the importance of these practices, we know, and I think for most women, we know, but I find too that a lot of women struggle to just get started, to be consistent. And I think I know, as you know too, that constancy is really important to the spiritual journey. That a consistent practice is what really like cultivates that inner space, and really creates the outer changes that we desire. So how do you, like, other than like, I love the idea of like the to-do list, and that works really well for, yeah, a lot of us that might even need more masculine, because for me, I'm very in my feminine and I need more masculine. So whole like having a to-do list helps me have some structure. So I'm definitely a to-do list person, even though I don't really like being structured, but it helps me. So, what are
Mm.
some other suggestions for women to help them like develop a consistent practice?
So this is like my like probably number one passion is to inspire people into a daily practice.
Hmm.
So firstly, like what I've noticed is like some women like literally have some blocks that what will benefit them is actually going to see a healer and actually getting those removed. So I've had a couple of women come to me saying like, I'm trying to do a daily practice, I'm trying to, but I can't. And when I go in, I find all kinds of, one woman, she had several near-death experiences. And as a result of that, she had a block from meditating. We cleared that in one session. She was meditating for 2, 3 hours a day after that. I had another woman come to me. She couldn't do her daily practice and she had a really difficult childbirth. And then there was a bunch of programs and beliefs around that. We had to clear, and then boom, she was on her way. So sometimes, like, there's like a block, just like there's a block to, I don't know, receiving money or finding love. Like, there can be a block. So one thing is like go and get some help, and sometimes one session can literally be enough to get you going. The other thing is like that I found. I remember when I was living in India for this yoga teacher training, and one of them I've done, and I was meditating, and I got a really strong message like from spirit, like you need to be practicing 3 hours a day. And I thought they were talking about meditation. I was like, what? Meditating 3 hours a day? That's insane. And then they told me, no, it's your entire practice, including, the asana, the breath work, the singing, the chanting, like all the different things. I was like, okay, that I could do. And then there was a period over the next whatever years where I would, work towards that three hours a day. And then, it didn't become as necessary later on. But what I'm a big believer is that at any given time in your life, there is an amount of time that you need to be spending in internal spiritual work in order for you to be in alignment. Now, if you're a busy woman that works 40 hours a day, 40 hours a week, that might only be 10 minutes a day, and that might be enough for you. Like 10 minutes of meditation a day can literally be life changing. And I even say, in order to get to that commitment, start with 5. And you've got to like tie your practice with something else. So as soon as you wake up, that's when you do it. So you've got to tie the habit with another thing that's going to happen every day. The other thing you need to understand is like the spiritual internal practices. We brush our teeth and we shower every day for physical hygiene. The spiritual work is our spiritual and emotional and mental hygiene. It's absolutely essential to your happiness. And I remember when I first started practicing meditation every day many years ago, and I just taught myself, like I just watched YouTube videos. I have a very naturally very disciplined personality. It's a gift I have, it's a strength. So I learned it on YouTube and I started my own practice every day. And then I was traveling in South America and I had fallen out of my practice, and it was during the 2012 like is the world going to end, the Mayan calendar end, and so it was just absolute chaos and turmoil, and I was in chaos and turmoil. And in a moment of clarity, it dawned on me, I had an awareness, oh, I've fallen out of my meditation practice, that's why I feel like this. Now that was lucky of me to catch, because most people who have fallen out of a practice or never had one to begin with, their consciousness and awareness is so constricted that they're not even aware that they're lost, or they're not aware that something's missing. They're just lost and tossed in the chaos, and there's no awareness of a higher perspective. Oh, there's something I can actually do to fix this. It's like a vicious cycle of unawareness, basically. And so from that day on, like another like core understanding I took from that is like the key to happiness is daily meditation. That's simple. You want to be happy? Meditate. Meditate. That's the only way around, especially if you have a busy mind. Maybe other people have found happiness without meditation, but for the majority of us that live in cities and have ambitions and struggles and stuff, you have to meditate. So it's like just this understanding, like Just like we have to brush our teeth every day, just like we have to shower every day, we have to meditate every day. And so once you start to understand that it is absolutely essential, then go out and you need to start experimenting. Some people are like, I don't know how to meditate. If you're just starting out meditating, like it's gonna be torture. Like you're gonna be sit there for 10 minutes just catching your thoughts and you're gonna feel like you're not making any progress. But that is where you're at, and that is progress, and that's amazing. In time, over the months, over the years, your muscle will develop and you will have those moments of peace and clarity. But just because you're not clearing your mind completely doesn't mean there's no benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And just focusing on your breath, that is just the most simple way to start. And then you can go off and experiment with other traditions and styles and courses and things like that and find what really works with you. But the breathing, simple breathing meditation, everyone can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Focusing on your breath, you know. Um, so it's just like a just awareness of the benefits, inner peace, happiness, clarity, alignment. And then of course, if you don't do it, the opposite. And then, it's just essentially you just have to. You got
Yeah.
to do it like you got to brush your teeth. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I would second that because I started a meditation practice when I was 11, and I mean, there's also like social emotional regulation, fear modulation. I mean, it lowers your blood pressure, your heart rate. Like, it's super good to lower your cortisol levels for stress management. There's so many scientific evidence. It's an evidence-based practice. So like it's no longer like when I was in my 20s, meditation was still kind of like woo-woo, which is hard to believe. But now, it's like it's become a normal, it's a normal part of daily life. Like we just know it's good for us. And I had one period in my life that I can distinctly recall where I lost my practice, and that was after having my first child. Which, I think by the time, I'm trying to think, if it was maybe by the time I had my second, they were pretty close together. Um, and it became like an inconsistent practice. But I started to notice that I was responding to life or reacting to life in a way that I didn't really like. And I'm like, this doesn't feel like me. And I was trying to think, like, what's different? What's different? And then I was like, oh, I need to get back to my meditation practice. It's got to be consistent. Like, I need to do this for myself so that I can handle my kids better. And it was the game changer. Yeah. So, yeah, it is. It's just a simple practice, and I love how that natural like hygiene, the spiritual hygiene, both are teachings that come from the Essenes. And so I wonder if we should transition a little bit too, so that we can talk a little bit about where your tantra womb healing yoga practice is like kind of coming from, and how we can use this practice as another way to, I mean, it's interesting with the womb, because the womb is definitely a space where we need to clear, but it's also a space where we can receive and create from. So there's so many dynamics at play with the womb, and I think there's so much untapped potential for healing in this center for women, because it's primarily been an area that women have either been taught to kind of like hide it, like anything related to the womb, your reproductive system, your menstrual cycle, it's all kind of very hush hush. And I know for me, it wasn't even that long ago that I was doing some energy work training, and I realized like that I I was always in tension with my womb space, because I had, like uncomfortable, painful periods from the time it started, you know? And so it was like, I was always had this contention with my own body. And then it just dawned on me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad that I've treated my own body in a way that has sort of been like this antagonizing relationship. And so I had this womb reconciliation, which was an incredible entryway really into really the my priestess path. And so that too, and I just want to like encourage anyone that even just feels the nudge to be curious about the priestess path. It is one of the most enlivening, enriching, and healing paths I've ever taken. And I've been in the spiritual journey for, like probably 30 years and have done a lot of different, you know, schools of study and practice. And the priestess path is by far, hands down, the most transformational that I've ever been on. So, so if you're curious, definitely look into Catherine's program. Yeah. So yeah, take us through this journey that you're going to
Sure.
invite us into.
Sure. So just to start out, like how I got into Tantra is, like so many women, there was sexual abuse, there was, as a result of that, there was a lot of mistreatment from men, just some really early programs that were set strongly in my subconscious that caused me to experience a life of absolute pain and suffering and hurt around men and just relating with men. Up until when I was like younger, before I kind of awakened in my early 20s and teens and stuff like that, there were some committed relationships. But like once I was awakened, like I literally was never in a committed relationship. I wanted it desperately, but there were blocks in my sacral chakra that were literally blocking that from happening. And so I was just so beside myself, like in sadness, desiring union, but just absolutely pushing it away, having no idea. And that's when I went into the Neo Tantra world. So the Neo Tantra world is like this modern manifestation of sexual healing. And then I only found the Essene Tantric teachings recently. So a lot of my the Tantra and things that I'm teaching you today are really just informed by the different traditions, but very much like a deeply spiritual, yogic, meditative like foundation. My first tantric training was with a celibate tantra yoga monk in a monastery where I stayed for several months. It was my first exposure to the world of yoga. Just happened to be tantra. And so for me, Tantra was this desire to heal my sexual trauma and to attract in a partner. And a year ago, that happened, and I attracted in my husband. And it was right after a Tantra retreat. It was after a year of doing sacral chakra, womb healing practices, everything that I have done in the last decade, even longer than a decade, to liberate myself and to attract in divine union. Is this is what I'm teaching in this training. So we're going to start soon, but before we go in, there's a few things I want to mention. We're going to be doing some chanting, and I like to work with the mantra, the Hebrew mantra Elah, which means goddess in Hebrew. And is there something else I want to make? Feel free, in Tantra, there's three core principles. They talk about sound, breath, and movement. And so, really, ultimately, I'm trying to always mix these three together: sound, breath, and movement. So, feeling free to really, ah, making a sound, making a sound, making a sound. And we'll start with some movement because meditation is very difficult if you haven't done some kind of movement beforehand. And that's absolutely the order it's supposed to be done in. I would say even impossible if your body is like unmoved. So we're going to do some movement practices. We're going to do some mudras, some mantras, some chanting, and then we'll go into some breathing and meditation, and we'll do some healing on the womb. And the main breath work, I guess, the intention we're going to work with is something called the womb heart nadi. There's a channel that runs from the womb to the heart, a nadi, an energy channel. And so we're inhaling from the womb to the heart, And we're exhaling from the heart to the womb. So throughout the entire practice, I will be prompting that practice and just feel free to go really internally. The other final thing is when I practice, my eyes are closed. I learned that from that celibate tantric yoga monk in the monastery. He would always teach us that his eyes would be closed. And for me, that allows me to go deeper in my practice, and it allows you as well. So if you need to open to see what I'm doing, fine, but feel free to also intermittently close your eyes to take your attention within, which is the feminine, right? The feminine is absolutely focused within. Eyes open or a little bit, it's more on the masculine side. Okay. So if you want to put some music on in the background, feel free. That could be nice, as long as it doesn't distort my voice. Starting with the hands in front of the heart, inhaling from the womb to the heart, exhaling from the heart to the womb with a sigh. So just taking your attention into your heart, to the womb space, just formulating an intention here. Whatever it is you're wanting to release, whatever it is you're wanting to invite into your experience, now is the time to focus on that. We're going to start by chanting 3 times Ela, which means goddess in Hebrew. Inhale, and on the exhale we chant. Inhale to just welcoming our honored guest, the goddess, the divine feminine presence. Welcoming her through your breath. Take up residence in your body. To enthrone herself within you as you. We're going to inhale the hands up to the heavens. Exhale, sweeping them down, letting your angel wings spread. Exhale, releasing the tips to the ground beneath you. If you're on a chair, just resting on either side, holding the breath on the exhale. And inhale back to the heart, up to the heavens, sweeping the hands up. Exhale, sweeping your aura, cleaning your energy field. Holding the breath on the exhale, resting the fingertips on the earth beside you or on the chair if you're sitting on the chair. Inhale back to the heart and inhaling up to the heavens. One final sweep. Exhale, cleaning your energy field, spreading those wings. Holding the breath, resting here. And then resting the hands on your knees, we're going to gently roll the head in one direction. Deep breathing, really sounding that breath on the exhale. Mm. When you're ready, back to the center, straightening through the spine. Noticing any subtle sensation in the body. And we're going to gently move in the other direction. Slow, gentle circles. Mm. Feeling free to sigh or exhale as you release any tension. Mm. And back to the center. Inhaling from the womb to the heart. Exhaling from the heart to the womb. And taking the right hand on the left knee, which will be opposite to me, looking over that left shoulder. Inhale from the womb to the heart. Exhale, heart to womb. 2 more breaths like that. Inhale from the womb to the heart. Exhale, heart to womb. 1 more. And gently straightening back to the center, going within, noticing your inner reality. Turning this movement practice into a meditation. Putting the left hand on the right knee, twisting over, looking over the right shoulder. 3 breaths. Inhale from the womb to the heart. Exhale, heart to the womb. 2 more.
And I'm coming home to my breath, to my body. And
Back to
I'm
the center.
coming home where I
Noticing the sensation.
belong.
Dropping your attention deep within.
And I'm coming home to my breath, to my body.
Do 1 more movement practice before we move into the mudras and some meditation. So if you're seated, you can bring both the feet together. Otherwise, if you're just on your chair, you can stay upright. And you can either rest your hands on the knees if you're on the chair or on the ankles. And then we're going to spiral around, moving in a way that really activates the womb and the hips. Opening the chest, breathing.
And I give thanks for the earth that holds me.
And coming to the center, straightening through the spine, inhaling from the root to the heart. Exhaling, heart to womb. And then the other direction. Circling, spiraling around, central channel, opening the womb, opening the heart, nice and sensual. back to the center, opening up, straightening the spine, opening. Inhale, heart, womb to heart. Exhale, heart to womb. Just coming back into cross leg if you're seated on the mat. I'm going to come into a lotus mudra, bringing the hands in prayer in front of the heart. Just coming back to that intention that you formulated at the beginning, something that you're wanting to release. And then we're going to allow this sequence to really release it. The lotus going through the mud and emerging as a beautiful lotus flower. So we inhale, we flip the hands around the little fingers, so flipping them to the back of the hands to come together, reverse namaste, and then the fingers point towards the heart. Inhale out in front of you. Exhale, bringing the backwards namaste through the mud. And then you exhale, it comes down into the lotus in front of the heart. We're going to chant Ella here 3 times. Inhale. Bring the hands back in the namaste in prayer position. Just coming into it, one of the womb mudras, so it's a reverse triangle. Just sliding down the body, finding a position anywhere on the yoni, the womb, the second chakra. Holding it there, inhaling from the womb to the heart. Exhaling, heart to womb. 2 more breaths like that. And 1 more. And then bringing that womb, yoni mudra, down to the earth in front of you, grounding all that old stagnant energy from the womb that you've just been working with, anything that's ready to release, like our menses, our blood, we bleed into the earth, just focusing on the yantra of the trinity, of the triangle, the pyramid there, and just letting that be a portal into the earth for the release, the release, the release, the release of the old. And bringing that mudra up to the heavens, looking through the pyramid, opening it as a portal for new divine energy to flow down. And bringing it back down into the womb again, taking a breath there. Now we're just going to come into a womb healing meditation. You can either stay in this mudra. You can bring one hand on the womb, one on the heart. You can lay down, whatever feels comfortable for you. That you can really come into a receptive, healing space, feminine space in here and now. Just bringing all of your attention to your breath. Dropping your attention to the womb, the cervix, the yoni. We're going to do 3 cervical breaths. So as we exhale, we're letting all the yoni and the cervix, all that area open and drop. And we're using the sound of our voice without judgment to whatever it is that that sound is that comes out. And we're releasing all the tension, old stagnant energy, taking a deep breath in. Opening the yoni, the cervix, letting it drop. 2 more just like that. Ah. One. Ah. And just taking a moment to bring all of your attention. We're scanning the womb space. We're scanning the womb space with a healing light. And just receiving that healing light in any color that you need right now. It's a little bit like yoga nidra for the womb. I'm just going to mention the different parts of the womb, the yoni. And as I do, I want you to consciously send this light while also allowing for a deep relaxation and release. And just being aware of any emotions, memories, or sensations that come up to be felt and released. Starting with the left fallopian tube. Your eggs on the left side. Right fallopian tube. Eggs on the right side. Dropping into the uterus. Front wall. The back wall. The left wall. And the right. Coming into the cervix. The vaginal canal. Vagina. The outer parts of your yoni. Your anus. Just collectively feeling all of these areas that we've mentioned in one moment. Feeling that divine light, healing, restoring, rejuvenating. When you're ready, gently bring the hands into prayer position in front of the heart. And from this raised consciousness level, coming back to your intention of release and falling in. Giving thanks to the Divine Mother and the Divine Father. Gently bowing the head forward. In profound gratitude, honor, reverence, and love for the divine within and all around. Namaste.
Thank you for this, Catherine. I think anyone that just received that probably could just spend so much time just in that beautiful space you brought us to. Thank you. So nourishing, so healing. Yeah, thank you. So that was a beautiful, maybe taste of what I imagine your 3 month container will be. And I have to just say that, I peeked a little bit at the offering, and for the price, like, it's pretty insane. You will never see an offer like this. So, like, if you are curious at all, yeah, the value is like
Thank
out
you.
of this world. Yeah. So, thank you for really making an offering that's really accessible for people, because a lot of times to invest in a priestess program, it's costly, and certainly all worthwhile. But I know that you are such a wealth of knowledge and a beautiful teacher, so this will be really an incredible resource for people. So I know that you do this as a ministry, and I really value that too, because I feel like my work also is a it's a it's a passion, it's a love, and a service to the world. So I appreciate that reflects in your your yeah, what you're asking for. So
Sure. Just
um,
wanted to mention, if anybody isn't interested in doing the actual training, every Sunday for the indefinite future, I will be running a 2 hour live Tantra room healing yoga workshop and breath work. And this is so people always have access to the healing that they need. $30 US dollars, it's unbelievable. It's even gets even cheaper when you start working with me in other ways, or if you buy a bunch of sessions at once. And so that is just always going to be there for the next, 6 months at least to a year. And then, maybe I'll get pregnant and have a baby and have to stop for a while. But even then, I'm probably going to be teaching it so that's always there. It's always going to be there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hmm. So, is there anything else that you would like to leave us with or share about your work before we sign off?
No, I think we covered everything. Thank you. Just so many blessings to all the women, and just happy happy journey. Just feminine healing arts. This is where it's at.
Yeah, it's yeah, I just want to say too that um, there's a man that works with grief specifically, and he said that it's through grief that we heal the world. And so when we do enter into these spaces to do the deep healing work, I mean, like really we're accessing layers of grief. And so our own work creates a ripple effect in the world. And so it's a beautiful calling to do the inner work, which is hard for ourselves, but we're also doing it for the collective. And even if you maybe don't like feel that or understand it, it's especially potent for your like generations to come. So even in your own family line, your healing work affects your children, their children. And to me, that was a huge catalyst for a huge transition that I made in my life, which was to leave my marriage, because there was a lot of healing that needed to be done in my maternal line. And so this has been the process for me. And so grief tending has been very important piece that I feel like is kind of seems always foundational when I work with women. Like things always kind of come back to that need of healing those areas that are just a little showing up in our lives sometimes unconsciously. So thank you so much for your work, Catherine. If you haven't explored her Facebook group, I highly recommend it because she does a lot of, like, you tend to it very consistently. So you're in there live regularly. It's a great space to receive a lot of spiritual wisdom and practice. So I would encourage anyone to join your Facebook group. Yeah. Yeah. And I'll post all those links in the comments for the recording. And thank you so much, Catherine, for your time. Yeah.
Thank you. God bless.
Sending
Bye.
everyone love.
Bye.